Your roadmap to the latest in auto. Welcome to Highway Herald. Detroit isn't just a city, it's the pulse of global motoring, and right now that pulse is under pressure from Washington's tariff blitz. Since spring 2025, new duties on cars, parts, steel, and aluminum have rattled supply chains and hammered automakers. GM faces billions in hits, Ford's profits are clipped, and Stellantis is pausing plants. With jobs, prices, and Detroit's status on the line, here are the key developments. Detroit's tariff whiplash, the first blow lands. The 2025 tariff surge hit Detroit like a gut punch. It began in April with a 25% levy on imported vehicles and parts, followed by June's doubling of Section 232 duties on steel and aluminum to 50%. Even cars stamped Made in America depend on foreign steel, electronics, and interiors, so the shock rippled instantly from ports to showrooms. Automakers tried to shield customers with incentives and delayed price hikes, but by Q2 the damage was undeniable. GM lost $1.1 billion and saw profits fall 32%. Ford reported an $800 million hit, and Stellantis paused production in Mexico and Canada, sparking U.S. layoffs. Canada, America's key aluminum and steel supplier, was drawn into the fray when tariffs on certain goods spiked to 35%. Mexico got a temporary reprieve, but uncertainty froze planning. Then an appeals court struck down most IEEPA tariffs, delaying enforcement until October. For Detroit, this shock was only phase one. Factories now face the urgent task of rewriting sourcing and capital strategies. But if shock was the first chapter, the next is all about how Detroit's factories rewrote the playbook to adapt. Inside the factory, costs, contracts, and reshoring gambits. After the initial tariff shock, Detroit's automakers moved quickly to adapt. Procurement teams scrambled to rebid contracts, line up secondary suppliers, and substitute domestic content, even at higher costs. The fastest fixes leaned on product mix, emphasizing profitable trucks and SUVs, delaying launches, and trimming incentives to preserve margins. GM led the charge with a $4 billion reshoring plan, expanding plants in Michigan, Kansas, and Tennessee to add over 2 million units of U.S. capacity within 2 years. These retrofits aren't flashy new builds, but efficient retools aimed at offsetting $4 to $5 billion in annual tariff costs. At the core of the strategy is batteries. Automakers are locking in North American material deals, while engineers redesign motors and cathodes to reduce reliance on China-refined inputs. Legal teams, meanwhile, model scenarios: tariffs struck down versus tariffs entrenched. To hedge, companies are building flexibility into supply chains with multiple vendors and modular assemblies. Yet all these efforts hinge on one critical factor: keeping customers in the game. And that takes us from the factory floor straight to the dealer lots, where the real battle is being fought: the customer's wallet. Before we delve deeper, we'd appreciate it if you could subscribe to Highway Herald. Your support fuels our passion to create more content like this. Showroom and street, buyers feel the pinch. Step onto a dealer lot today and the big question is clear: are prices climbing again? Automakers tried to cushion the impact. Ford offered employee pricing to all U.S. customers through June before raising prices on Mexico-built models. Volkswagen added an import fee, while Nissan halted U.S. orders of its Mexico-built Infiniti QX50 and QX55 to protect allocations. Buyers quickly adjusted. Some downgraded trims, others turned to hybrids or fuel-efficient ICE vehicles to control ownership costs. Fleet operators stretched replacement cycles rather than gamble on high-priced new tech. Dealers pivoted too, leaning heavily on certified pre-owned models to keep payments manageable. Incentive strategies tightened, while mid-cycle refreshes shifted toward practical, high-value features. Yet, uncertainty lingers. Stellantis' production pauses in Windsor, and Toluca showed how deeply tariffs ripple through labor and inventory. With courts challenging much of the tariff framework, Detroit faces two paths: stabilization or continued volatility. But while buyers and dealers adapt on the ground, north of the border and across the Pacific, geopolitical cards are being reshuffled. North of the border and beyond, Canada's leverage versus China's grip. Canada has avoided tit-for-tat retaliation against U.S. tariffs, instead opting for a long-term strategy built on its strongest leverage: energy and minerals. When Washington raised duties on certain Canadian goods to 35% on August 1st, Ottawa didn't mirror the move. Instead, it highlighted U.S. dependence. Over 4 million barrels of Canadian crude flow south daily, and aluminum shipments remain vital despite tariff strain. This interdependence allows Canada to push forward with faster approvals for mining and refining critical minerals like nickel, lithium, and cobalt, strengthening its role in the EV supply chain. China, meanwhile, remains the biggest wildcard. Even US-built vehicles depend on components refined in China, from rare earth magnets to battery precursors. Any disruption, formal or informal, can spike costs. To counter, North America is ramping processing, while automakers engineer alternatives with less reliance on China-heavy materials. And this sets the stage for the bigger question: where does Detroit go from here in the next 2 years? The road ahead: jobs, prices, and what's in the showroom. The next 2 years represent a pivotal crossroads for Detroit. In the baseline case, some tariffs persist while others are eased by courts or political carve-outs. Automakers will pass part of the burden to consumers, especially on import-heavy models, while doubling down on reshoring. Prices will stay high, incentives carefully targeted, and base trims trimmed to keep payments manageable. Dealers will lean on certified pre-owned inventory as affordability anchors, while jobs remain uneven. Some overtime reduced but offset by new roles in retooling and battery supply chains. An optimistic outcome would see relief for critical components like batteries, stabilizing pricing and boosting hybrid and plug-in hybrid adoption. Suppliers would gain confidence, and employment could recover faster. The nightmare? Broader tariffs or tighter Chinese export controls, triggering price spikes, stripped-down features, and heavier reliance on profitable trucks and SUVs. Leasing would become vital, with layoffs and supplier consolidation likely. Which brings us to the final question. Can Detroit truly rebuild stronger, or will tariffs keep the Motor City stuck in neutral? Final verdict: Detroit at the crossroads. Detroit has survived recessions, bailouts, and pandemics, and now faces another defining test. The road ahead demands flexibility, modular platforms, diversified supply chains, strong North American battery partnerships, and a balanced mix of ICE, hybrids, and EVs. Reshoring must stay on track while single-country dependencies are engineered out. Transparency with customers on pricing and value is critical. Resilience isn't a buzzword, it's survival. Automakers controlling core assets like cells, magnets, and scalable platforms will absorb tariff shocks with less pain and rebound faster. Detroit has rebuilt before. Now it must do so again, stronger, leaner, and ready for any policy storm. Now, we love to hear from you. Can Canada's energy and mineral leverage really counter Washington's tariffs? How high might car prices climb if tariffs linger into 2026? Which powertrain, ICE, hybrid, or EV, do you think comes out on top in this climate? If you found this video insightful, be sure to subscribe to Highway Herald for the latest vehicle updates and in-depth analyses. Your support helps us bring you the best in automotive content. Please leave a comment below to start a conversation. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. You can now check out any of the videos on the screen. There's more exciting and informative content waiting for you.